Hello everyone, thank you very much for joining us once again in our videos here. Your audience is extremely important to us. Thank you very much for your presence. And today we're going to dedicate some time to talk about, to continue talking actually about the origins of stress. Because stress is something that is extremely, we can almost say it's always at our feet, right behind us. Kind of the possibility to become stressed, possibilities are almost continuous. So it's up to us deal with that and see that these things may be as non-noxious, as unnoxious as possible. And we have been talking about the fact that we have this prodigious memory. We always like to think of ourselves as a species that thinks, that reasons. But there is something that is previous, that comes before reasoning, which is a prodigious memory. And so much so that the most brilliant machines we've ever produced have been machines that deal with memory, which we call archives, files. And we keep these files. These machines are called computers and cell phones and all these other highly intelligent devices. So we have this huge capacity of stocking. We can collect huge amounts of information. And we have talked about that and its effect on our frustration with what we have achieved, what we think of ourselves. We've talked about that and its effect on how much we feel bored here and there, how much, all these consequences we have from the fact of operating this huge machine, which is our memory. Now, if you think you have no influence whatsoever on that, then you're really mistaken. And you're also losing an ethical ship. You're losing your chances from an ethical point of view of kind of taking over some mastery, achieving some mastery over yourself, over the things you feel, without suppressing yourself, without exerting authority over yourself. That's a part of the secret of it. Mastery without suppression. And so we have this memory of ours, which is huge. What do we find easier to deal with? Training a small dog for a circus act, or training a big one? Obviously, the smaller is the easiest. Why? Is he smarter? No, he's smaller. He's less strong. He's weaker than a big one. So our memory is difficult to deal with in the exact proportion in which it's huge. It's obvious. The bigger the dog, the stronger he is, the rougher it might be to take him here and there. You just don't get your German Shepherd, 47 kilos. I have no idea how much that would be in pounds, but catch him in your arms and carry him. I had to do that. It's tough. It's really tough. Now, if it's a small little race, you just pick it up, put it here, and you walk away with it. So our memory is not something we can carry under our arm. Our memory is huge, and sometimes it can surpass us. That's one of the reasons why in the traditions it is common people say the mind is infinite. Because what exactly is infinite? Infinite is uncountable, really. We don't have the machinery to conceive infinite. We have the machinery to conceive uncountable. It's beyond my computational, my informatic capacity. It's not exactly infinite. It's just beyond my numeric system. So, anyway, I think these things are sufficient to point to us that this thing is huge. So we are dealing with something that is extremely mighty, powerful, and big. It can, yes, it can ruin our lives. And it can, yes, build it. So, as we have a growth of this capacity of storing information, proportionally we have the growth of the capacity of comparison. And that's not difficult to imagine. The more automobiles, suppose you're an automobile, a car fan, and you love cars, and you love these guys who have car collections, and you love old cars, and you love all that stuff. The more cars you have seen, you have studied, you have understood how they were built, how they worked, what kind of engine they had, what kind of suspension they had, the more knowledge you acquire of that, the easier it is to start making comparisons. So if I've seen millions of car models and I see a new one, the comparison of this new model to what I have in mind is a car, should be a car, a better car, a worse car, whatever, there will be immediately a comparison. And if you show me something that is very different to a car, I'll say, look, this is not alike anything I have ever seen. That's comparison. With no judgmental, with no value judgment to it, but it's a comparison. Jimmy is taller than Mark. It's a comparison. You're not saying that to be short is better, to be tall is better. You're just saying that one is taller than the other. So the comparison, a non-judgmental comparison, is a criterion which is unavoidable. That is unavoidable. So you cannot wish to achieve equanimity or non-prejudice on the basis of suppressing your ability to compare, because you will compare. Then, this can be aesthetic, as I said, the example of the car, but then you can also make other kinds of comparisons. You'll hear the story of a parent who sacrificed herself for the benefit of the next generation. And it can be very compelling, it can be very emotive. It's extremely mobilizing and commoting. Then you hear another story, usually in the police section. Someone who threw his daughter through the window. Judging she was already dead and he threw her, and she was still alive and she died from the fall. This, in fact, happened. Names here don't matter really. But when you have one story of a parent who sacrifices himself for the offspring, and then have another story where a parent throws a child through the window to get rid of legal issues, the comparison is unavoidable. You will see the difference between a caring parent and a non-caring parent, if you like, well, whatever you wish to put. And then this one is carried with moral feelings. Why? Because it's about the next generation. It's about our relationship with the next generation. And then I ask you, what else can be of human drama, personal human drama, if not the relationship with the generation that came before me and my relationship with the generation that comes after me? Freud played with that, and he talked about the Oedipus complex, complexo de Édipo, which is precisely all if you forget, put aside all the other concepts, just think of the conflict. What do I do with the generation that came before me? What shall I do with the generation that I have helped raise? That's all about where our human, personal, family, emotional conflicts. And then you have moral comparisons, people who do things that now we can talk about moral here, not only in the sense of morals, right or wrong. We can talk about morals, about people who kind of master themselves. They have a certain dominion, they have a certain stamina, they have a certain a gravitas about what they do and the way they deal with things and the ideas they have. And others are less secure, others are less trusting, others can be less clear and balanced. And you tend to compare this. That guy is a bit unstable, better not count on him. This one is quite stable. So, and independent again from any ethical, moral judgment you might make, you have more people you tend to trust, more people you tend to trust the less. And this is comparison. And this also comes from the accumulation of interpersonal experience. Of course, certain interpersonal experiences are more relevant than others. They can be more significant than others. That's why we always say significant others. Usually what they do has more salience, has more impact than lesser important people. You can have it in you can have this comparison in material terms. With Facebook, I think the social nets brought that up very strongly. Comparison, material comparison started to be very, very, very enhanced recently. So people will put in their profile, they will put the best photos. They don't put the worst ones. They put the best ones. They put the photos in the most charming scenery. They won't put it in a bad scenery. What's the point in putting a bad photo of yourself? In Portuguese, we have a saying. You say, you're looking good in the photo. So when you want to please someone or you want to look respectable, you say, you're trying to look good in the photo. Você está tentando ficar bem na foto. So we have this material, and then my car, your car is more expensive than mine, consequently, and then so on and so forth. So it's enough. Your house is bigger than mine. You live in a more distinguished neighborhood or not, and so on and so forth. So and also, why not intellectual vanity? We also have intellectual comparisons. Someone has a higher educational degree than someone else, someone is better in maths than someone else, and so on and so forth. So these comparisons are unavoidable because they are part of the way we build and organize our memories. So this is extremely important to understand. This doesn't mean we are classifying people or facts or things or values. We are classifying them in a hierarchic. I don't know how to spell that in English, but it must be something like that. Kind of organizing them in priority. We have to be careful with that, because then we can become judgmental, and then we can start condemning people. Like, I think poorly of someone because he's poor, or I think poorly of someone because he's wealthy. Or I think poorly about someone because he's an heir. He inherited a fortune. Or I can start unconsidering, despising people for being good looking. So it's very easy. And what is that? We are talking about, when we think of static comparisons, we're being almost sensory. The hair, the car, the house, the clothing. You see, we're being almost sensorial, sensitive. When we talk about morals here, and again, we're talking about morals in the stamina sense, the attitude, how assertive you might be, how self-confident one may look. And this moral comparison is also had. Then you have the appearing of envy. So who is the first cousin of comparison? Envy, of course. It doesn't mean that it is going to appear because you're being compared. But the root for envy is born in comparison. Want me to prove it? Let's go. What else is envy, if not? Let's take an example of envy first. So I'm at a graduation dance, the graduation party. And there is this girl who got, I think it's called prom in the States, I'm not sure. She goes with a beautiful dress and she wants to be as beautiful as she can. But then she gets to the party and there's another girl who is wearing one beaut of her dress, calls her eye, calls her attention. Several attitudes can be born from that, but one of them can be she starts to underestimate, underrate the dress. She says, okay, but that color is too light, or maybe that color doesn't match her color, her skin color as good. That's a little bit too offering. It's a little bit too hot, whatever. And you start to say, oh, see, there goes someone that has to wear a very short dress and have her knees showing and show some skin to be able to call attention. You can start being derogative in what you're saying. Then, so what is that? That's an envious mechanism. Then I start talking, I start gossiping. She starts gossiping to others, pointing how badly dressed that other girl is. That is the mechanism of envy. Needless to say, it is highly noxious from a social point of view, right? Don't need to go into details about that. You have movies, you have books written about that, you have stories written about envy. And in the stories, people go to extremes that usually in real life they won't. But envy in the books, in the romances, in the movies can lead to murder. It can lead to murder, it can lead to ruining lives, and so on and so forth. So, what else is envy if not the attempt? So get this girl, the simple example of a girl who envies her colleague's dress. What else is envy if not the attempt to invalidate or disenable that which I imagine might be an advantage my neighbor has on me? So again, what is it? It's the attempt to invalidate, disenable, spoil, deteriorate exactly that which I imagine my neighbor might have as an advantage over me. So all envy is initially born with admiration. It's a kind of a deformation. It's a kind of a twist in admiration. It's really something I admire. It's really something I would like to have for myself, but I don't, so I start throwing stones on it. So it's a destructive movement. It is noxious. Why? Because I'm not going to get myself as beautiful a dress as that lady, the other girl has. I'm not going to get myself the good job I suppose the guy has. I won't have the same financial, material, intellectual, loving, moral things that I admire in him. So he doesn't have them. I start to try to destroy them. I try to make him go without them, and I continue without them. So it's just down-to-earth destructivity, aggressiveness, hostility, whatever you like. Now, what people don't understand is that the emotions involved in the envy mechanism are inflammatory. There is no way envy can come to exist without a feeling of inferiority, without a feeling of abandonment, without a feeling of flaw, self-despising. So it is noxious. It is extremely noxious, even when I have to deal with things who are not directly related to this envy. Let's take an example again, our girl at the prom dance. That evening might be spoiled because of her friend's dress. The talks, the quality of the talks she's going to have to other people, the way she's going to look in the photographs as they're taken, even how she deals with the boys. That seems to be a strong issue in these prom parties. The way that she's going to deal with the boys. All these things can be influenced by a certain bad mood, a certain evil array of emotions, of bad emotions, and that changes your physiognomy, it changes your humor, it changes the way you can laugh about jokes, it changes the way you feel free with people. And that is part of what we could call charisma, which is the capacity to make yourself desirable, not sexually, desirable as a human being. So, it is extremely important for those of us, and all of us do have this huge memory, to realize that all envy is born and all enmity is born in comparison. So to be able to administer especially the things I see in others which I admire. The antidote for that is to deal with, is to enable what we have and can be called our radical uniqueness. So what is it that is? We can be compared. I can compare myself to people my age who are not bald, who have hair. Or I can compare myself to other things that I think advantageous, things I think are disadvantageous. But the point is, I will be safe and I will be feeling better about these differences in the measure in which I enable my radical uniqueness, the radical uniqueness of my biography, of my personality. So I can be compared in many aspects. I cannot be compared with my uniqueness. And where does my uniqueness live? It also lives in my memory, in the building of the feeling of a self, which, okay, you might say, a self doesn't exist in itself. Okay, don't waste my time here. But understand that it's an operational definition. It doesn't mean to express something that actually exists, but it's a way of thinking that articulates our understanding of the world. Temporarily, flawedly, but anyway, it's something, it's a tool more than anything else. Mindfulness and self-contemplation can be very skillful means to cultivate our emancipation from the need, from the slavery of comparison, of valued comparison, judgmental comparison. And then you're able to see someone who has something that you admire. You won't want to destroy him because he has that you admire. You will want to join him because you have your uniqueness. You are uncomparable. So whatever comes as an admiration of a comparison in serious does not imply any kind of inferiority or superiority. Where you are unique, there is no possible comparison. That's why no one can really walk in your shoes. That's an experience only you yourself can have. So this bad, vicious cycle of comparisons and mutual derogation can come to an end. It can be mitigated, it can be extinguished through a continuous, repeated, and daily renewed, revigorating commitment that I make with myself, which is dealing with my radical uniqueness. Well, thank you very much for your attention in this time. If you feel this video has been of help for you, for the people, please don't forget to give us a like in the platform. Don't forget to share it with people you find might be profitable to. Your comments, your suggestions help us a lot in giving relevance to our channel, and subscribing to our channel for further content. Remembering that good knowledge that comes from science and comes from the legitimate forms of obtaining knowledge, can contribute to our wisdom, to our greater mastery, to a better ability to deal with our emotions and with our whatever goes on with us, and that in its own turn gives us a better quality of life, a larger well-being. Thank you very much. See you soon. Bye-bye.